said, oh, that's Old Testament. You're teaching Old Testament stuff. Shaul taught Old Testament. Shaul taught Torah and the Tanakh. That's what he taught. Do you know where he got this from? Anybody? Ezekiel? I mean, we're dealing with face to face because it says when he gathers us, we're going to see him face to face. He said, I'm going to deal with you face to face. Every one of you, all of y'all got an appointment. Eye to eye. I'm going to look at you in your eye. Eye to eye, face to face. But let's go to Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Elohim and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Why? For Elohim shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or whether evil. When he deals with you face to face, you can't hide nothing. You ain't going to be able to hide nothing. You ain't going to be able to hide no sins, you ain't going to be able to hide nothing. He's going to deal with you face to face. You have to give an account of everything you've done, every secret thing. Because we all got secrets. There ain't a person here ain't got no secrets. Because there's stuff about you that you don't want nobody to know. And you do things in the dark, you think nobody sees you. Oh, Most High, y'all see. Oh, I got my eyes on you. I see everything. How could he bring it into judgment if he doesn't see it? He sees everything. In fact, we don't have to go there, but Ezekiel, Yakazakal 11 and 5 says, I know your thoughts as they're coming to you. That's pretty intimate. That's pretty intimate to know my thoughts as they're coming to me. Uh-oh, I just thought of something. Well, he knew what you thought of. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's too. No, he knows. He knows. You can't know my thoughts. And Solomon says it's good that we don't know people's thoughts, because you'll find out what they think about you. And you ain't gonna like that. I have a high opinion of you. I don't want to know your thoughts because I have a high opinion of you. Because if I find out what your thoughts are, I might not think that highly of you no more. If you find out the thoughts of people, not only what they think about you, but the fact of what stuff that they think about, it could blow your mind. You say, oh my goodness, that's so depraved. You guys thinking about this? That is depraved. That's a tragedy. I mean, how could you be thinking about that? And then we get into judgment on people. That's why he knows it. Because he says, I got to judge all of that. I got to judge all your secret things. So this is what Paul was talking about, Shaul was talking about in 2 Corinthians 5 and 10. This is what he was talking about. For people who don't think you should use Old Testament or inspired word, that's what Shaul used. He used inspired word to teach. So let's go back to Yakazakal 20 and we were at verse 34. I'm going to deal with you face to face, like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith Yahuwah Elohim, or saith the Adon Yahuwah. Verse 37, and I will cause you, this is going to be the problem with a lot of people, I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. He's going to force you to pass under the rod. Now, for us who are in the Mashiach, this should not be hard, because he rules us with an iron rod. Our lives. We know there's things we just can't do. I got to keep my flesh clean. I got to keep my spirit, my ruach clean. I got to keep my mind clean. I can't be caught up in all of the depraved things in the world. I can't. Because he's going to bring you under this rod. Everybody kicking and fighting and scratching and don't want to do it, and they ain't going to be brought under the rod. They're not going to be brought under we're going to see it. If you have a problem Because a lot of people say the law is weak or the laws, you can't live under the law. But you said in Philippians, I can do all things through Mashiach that strengthens me. But then you don't want to study Torah and the law to keep that. But you can do all things through Mashiach that strengthens me. Well, one of them's true. I mean, you can't, either you can do all things through the Mashiach, keep Torah, or you can't. So somebody might ask, are you keeping all of Torah? When I look at those commandments that he's given me, the ones that are applicable to me, that we can keep as individuals in our dwellings, because we're not a nation in the land. So there's some national laws while we're in the land that we can't keep. One of them is, if you know of a witch, you don't let no witch live among you. If I know you a witch, when we're a nation and I know you a witch, we're going to judge you. It says, suffer not a witch to live. Now, if we do that now, I'd go to jail because we're not in our nation. Phineas was considered righteous indignation. Phineas, you remember Phineas? And he made a covenant with Phineas' seed. If you look at what he said, he made a covenant with his seed. Because Phineas, when he seen those two people at the altar engaged in sex, he was so had such indignation in him, he went to his tent and got his sword. By the time he got his sword and got back there, they had went to their tent. He thrust the sword through both of them in the act. And the Most High Yah says that's righteous indignation. Now, what we would say is he's a murderer. Most High Yah says that's righteous. You don't bring that up on the altar. Oh, no, you don't bring that. Nah. He even struck down Aaron's two of his sons because they lit the wrong incense, had the wrong censers up in the temple, took their life. Just like that. They burned the wrong censers in the temple. He cut them off. We see it in the New Testament with Ananias and Sapphira, right? They lied unto Kepha, dropped dead right there. His wife came in, didn't know her husband had just been slain. And so Kepha asked the same question. Did you sell it for so much? Oh, no, we only sold it for Holy Ghost took her. Said, the feet that carried out your husband are going to carry you out right now. Vroom, she dropped over. Because you lied to the Ruach. So there's times where he's very instant in death, and there's times where he's not. But as a nation, that's why we need to study Torah and the commandments, because as a nation, there was capital punishment as a nation. There was capital punishment. Now, we're not a nation now. We're following under the laws of the land, because when we're a nation, if your children rise up against you, that's against their parents. If a child does not honor their parents and even cusses them out, not even lay a hand on them, but just cusses them out, that's capital punishment. And these children, all they got to do is see that one time. I ain't gonna do that. Mama, I love you. All of a sudden, Mama, I love you. Mama, I love you. You know I love you, right, Mom? I mean, kids, they'll be repenting right away because they seen what happened to that other one. It won't take them too long they'll learn quick. But we're not a nation now. We're scattered. Like it says in prophecy, you're scattered to the four corners. You're in all these nations. But when I gather you to the nation again, as a nation, you're coming back under the rod. Because you know why you got to come under the rod? We're going to come back here. But let's go to Psalms 19 and verse 7. 19:7. Let's look at Psalms 19:7. This is why you're coming back under the law. The rod. The law of Yahuwah is what? For all UCC that says it's faulty or it's weak or whatever you say about it, the Most High Yah says, my law is perfect. And what does it do? Converts the soul. Because do you know in Matthew 19, when the rich young man asked him, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And he says, what does the commandment say? So by keeping the commandments, you can have eternal life because his law is perfect. The law is perfect. The commandment of Yahuwah is pure. All his commandments are pure. They're pure. And you better not speak against them. They're pure. And it enlightens the eyes. So let's go back to where we were in Yekazakal 22, verse, where were we? The rod of the covenant, verse 35, 36, 20, 35, 30. 37. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. All of Yasharal is going to be brought back under the bond of the covenant. And we know he's a covenant. In Romans, the first chapter, it talks about covenant breakers. That's not the Most High. He ain't breaking no covenant. He's bringing people under the bond of the covenant. This is where a lot of people are going to lose out. And I will purge out from among you the what? Rebels. All of those who would rebel against his law. I'm getting rid of all of them. All the rebels got to go. And them that transgress against me. All of the transgressors. Sin is a transgression of the law. All of the transgressors, those who transgress against me. Everybody that says, I don't have to keep Shabbat. I don't have to keep the Sabbath. Yahushua Mashiach is my Sabbath. So I don't have to keep the Shabbat. When it's written over and over and over in inspired word that seventh day was his Shabbat, a day of rest. It was the Pharisees and the scribes, those who brought in the oral law, that started to teach all this oral stuff, because the law of the Sabbath was you take your day of rest. Come out of the fields. You rest on the Shabbat. You don't do no servile work on the Shabbat. It's a day of rest. So the oral teaching now is, so how do I rest? Can I rest if I take over 1,200 steps? Well, you can't rest if you take over 12. How do you determine how many steps to take that goes past rest? Well, I think during a day, during a regular Shabbat day, if you take your rest, if you count the steps by resting, if you count the steps that you do in a normal 24-hour period while you're resting, and then come up with a standard. It's almost like they do in these companies, standard operating procedures, SOP. So they say, well, this is how many steps that you should take on the Shabbat when you're resting. So anything outside of that many steps, then you broke the Shabbat. They even brought in, well, if somebody is sick on the Shabbat, you got to stay sick. Do you know there's some people that practice even today, there's some people who practice that on the Shabbat, they don't even use the toilet. They try to go 24 hours because they feel that releasing of their bowels and their bladder and everything is work. See how far we can get? I mean, you can get way off. He wasn't dealing with nothing like that. He says, just like I rested, 6 days I created, was my creation. The seventh day I rested. That's what I want y'all to do. You got 6 days of work. That seventh day you rest. It's a day of rest. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so man brings in all of these things that brings about confusion. So when the Mashiach, when he actually healed on oh, you broke the Shabbat. There's nowhere in the teaching of Moses where it says if you heal on the Shabbat. You can't heal on the Shabbat. That's in the oral, the Talmud. It's not in Moses written where it's in the Talmud, the oral. Yes.
I think last time we look at it, he didn't do it intentionally. It wasn't like the goal to go, okay, I'm just going to go out here and purposely break it. But he saw the need and he took care of the need, but we confuse it with people who try to, well, I'm going to intentionally work, even though I could get out of it just because I want to work, or whatever it is. It's not like he was purposely trying to break it.
Right. And he gave the example. He told them, if you have your beast of burden, if they fell into a ditch on the Shabbat, are you going to leave them there? Or are you going to get them out? Oh, we're going to get them out. So I can't heal somebody on the Shabbat? He gave them that example. He gave them that example. Because people can get carried away when you get into the Talmud and the oral teaching of the law. You can get carried away. All of a sudden you got all these fence laws. And that's why they said, man, y'all made it too difficult on us. I got to count my steps. I can't do this. I can't do that. As soon as you start going into, you can't do this, can't do that, can't do this, can't do that. Wait a minute, time out. What can I do? I mean, that's where people get to when all you got is you can't. Even when we first came in church, you can't do this, you can't do that. You have people, and my first pastor, Bishop A.L. Boyd, says you can't scale the fish before you catch them, because you had a lot of people who were like the Pharisees in the church that was telling visitors when they come in, now if you get saved, you can't do that. Now if you get saved, you got to take them shoes off. Now if you get saved, you got to take the rings off your fingers. Now if you get saved, you got to take the lipstick off. You get saved, Bishop Boyd says you can't scale a fish before you catch them. Because we want to start to bring in all of the oral traditions instead of just trying to let people live underneath Torah. Because when you study Torah is, you got some folks who go to the far extreme. It's not even in Torah. They go to the far extreme. And that's what the Pharisees were doing. They got caught up in that oral tradition. Didn't Yahusha says, through your traditions, you made the word of Yah without effect. It's made it without effect. So when I understand Shabbat, which is the seventh day, it's a day that I rest. It's a day that I rest. I rest from all my labors, my servile work. I just take my day of rest. And it says in Hebrews, the 4th chapter, 1 through verse 10 or 11, it's dealing with the Shabbat. And it says there's still a day of rest for us, which means the day of rest remains even for us on this side of the cross. It still remains for us. And if people would go to Jerusalem to get the teaching, they would see, oh yeah, you still keep the Shabbat. But CC goes to Rome and Constantine and says, you don't have to keep the Shabbat. You don't have to keep none of the feasts. Do you know you got CC people who will fight you on pagan holidays, support of pagan holidays against feast days? They won't keep the feast days and won't fight for the feast days, but they'll fight for the pagan days, pagan holidays. So you know that that's not the Ruach. No, the Ruach is not going to support pagan idols and speak against the feast days. That's not the Ruach. I don't care how many times they talk about they speak in languages. You got to follow what's written in the Word, because the Word is inspired word. It's an inspired teaching that Shaul used. So you speak against the feast days, but you support pagan holidays. You just told on yourself. You just told on yourself. You don't keep no holy convocations that's written in Torah, but you'll call your own holy convocation that's not in Torah. And then you say, I got license. Well, who gave you this license? Because all the holy convocations are spoken of in the book. You can't create your own holy convocation. I'm going to create a holy convocation. You can't do that. It's already written in the Torah what is a holy convocation. So what you're doing is you're making yourself an Elohim. I'll make myself an Elohim. Let's honor the man of Elohim. Let's honor the man of Yah. And we're going to have all these different celebrations. And people are going to take their food stamp money and they're going to go to banks and get loans, because that's take out personal loans, because that's what honoring the man or the woman who's put up to do the teaching and the feeding. In order to honor them, we have to do it with our treasure. We do it with our treasure. And so we want you to save up all year, and at this time every year, then whatever you have saved up, like a Christmas fund account, and then whatever you saved up, then you're going to give honor to whom honor is due. And you have men standing up here and women that will cause you to break the bank and go bankrupt and be irresponsible in your own budget so that they can drive a new car, so they can live in a nice house. Well, that says honor. We have to honor them. Do you know honor? If you love him, what are you going to do? Keep his commandments. If you honor me, we're going to come back here, but let's look at Isaiah 42 and 21. Let's look at Isaiah 42 and 21. If you honor him, Yahuwah is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. Start living right. I even I'm trying to piece it together how I said it. And since I can't piece it together, I'll just kind of move on. But righteousness, he will magnify the law and he's going to make it honorable. So if I want to honor him, I'm going to promote his law. I'm going to live righteously. If you love me, keep my commandments. I'm going to guard his commandments because that's what shows that I love him, by guarding his commandments. Yes.
Okay, so I know. So are you saying that those who have like yearly Pastor's anniversary services are?
I don't think that's what it means by honoring them. They use that verse. I think Shaul told Timothy that. Those who rule well among you are worthy of double honor. You know, so then we get into the mishpah, because we have to define orally what honor is. And so what some people say, well, honor, when you honor me, is when you have appreciation service from me once a year, and I'll know if you honor me or not by the size of your offering. And so that's how they define that honoring. And it might be different from assembly to assembly. It might be slightly different. Now, the Shaul did say that he that preaches the gospel should what? He that preaches the gospel should live of the gospel, which is in 1 Corinthians, the 9th chapter. He that preaches the gospel should live of the gospel, which means through your preaching and assembly, they should take care of the minister. So my definition of that honoring is not how they define it. That's all I'm saying. Because they can define it as, well, if you honor me and you're supposed to show me double honor, if you was going to give $100, then double honor is $200.
I just want to clarify, because I know we may have those who are listening and they be like, wait, he's being extra because he's saying we can't have an anniversary service for our bishop or our pastor or first lady or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, because I could see that being said that now he don't want it, he's going in.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's how you define, because that's how some assemblies define it. Now, you don't have no scripture or no teaching from Shaul outside of that. You don't have no teaching that you should have anniversary services to honor your pastor. You don't see that teaching. All you see is, those who rule well are worthy of double honor. That's what Shaul says. So how do I define that? How do I define that double honor? And that's where you get, some assemblies, if you want to honor me, just give me an annual service, annually recognized. I've never done that here. So it's how they define it. Now, if somebody asks me, how can we show you honor? Because I don't live of the treasure of this assembly. So me and my wife, we bought our house and I got my car, everything before. Well, the car I got after, but I got it with my money, not the church's money. But we bought our house before I was elevated, because I didn't want it to be said that you look at the house you live in, look at the car you drive, and it's all because of the position you're in. No, it's not. Because that house we bought ourselves, and that car I paid with my own money. I didn't use no church money to pay for my car. That was my money. But then Paul says, he says he took wages from other churches so that he wouldn't be a burden. I think the Corinthians, because they didn't have a large treasure. So he says, I've robbed from other churches because I know what your financial condition is. And he says, if I preach the gospel, I should be able to live with the gospel. So there should be some treasure that supports the ministry. The treasury should support the ministry. Now, how you go about to get that treasure, are you making merchandise of the people? I mean, for me to know what your financial condition is and know that you can't, if you love me, you give me $1,000. Well, I can't afford it. I mean, there's times where if you sit up here with your title, you sit up here, $500. I ain't sitting up there. Yeah. That was said to me. I'm not going to do it. I don't expect, I'm not going to pay for that. When I give out of my heart what I'm capable of giving. I give out of my heart. And that's what he wants. He says, I want you to be a cheerful giver. You give from your heart. I'm not telling you what to give. Just give from your heart, because he loves a cheerful giver. He didn't say don't give nothing. Now you got some people, I ain't giving nothing. Well, that's not right. That's not right, because he says if you preach the gospel, you should live on the gospel. So if you are feasting off of the word, there should be some contribution. Yeah, you can't go into the grocery store and pull that leg of lamb off the shelf and take it home with you. You can't do that. You got to pay for it. But you want to come and dine here, and then, well, you can't charge. It's not that we're charging. It's just that you should have a contribution, because he even says that we should give. And if we give, and we give cheerfully, he says it's going to be given back to you, like he says in Luke, pressed down, shaken over, shall men give into your bosom because of your faithfulness in giving. So he does bless. He baruchs us, and he adds unto us. Some of us, when we started our walk with him, we didn't hardly have nothing. You look at where we are now, oh man, he's enriched me, because the way I started out, I hardly have nothing. I can't say I didn't hardly have nothing. I started out with nothing. So I see where I'm at now, and I was still a faithful giver. He honors that. Now, you're going to be judged now. Everybody who don't believe in giving, now you're going to be judged. You're going to be judged. Yes. Yeah, he even took up tent making to support himself, because he didn't really want to rob the churches, their treasuries, because they were just starting. He didn't want to rob them, So he wanted to. He said, "I'll go ahead and make tents. I'll make a profit off of making tents." So should preachers and pastors, should they earn a living? I had to earn one. I had to earn a living. My pension and my Social Security is because I worked. That's why I got a pension and Social Security. And that's the treasure here is growing. That's why the treasure is growing. I ain't robbing the treasure. Yes, I got two hands up. I don't know who was first.
I just had a question. How do we determine if the pastor/leader has ruled well?
I think it says that you should see their conversation or their lifestyle. There's something in that Shaul wrote. I don't know if it's Thessalonians, but it talks about. Well, I know Kepha said in all holy convocation, but that's dealing with the apocalypse. But I think it's in Thessalonians somewhere where it says, you follow their faith or their lifestyle. You'll see by their conversation. Because I think it's in Thessalonians, 1st or 2nd Thessalonians, if somebody could find that. So you look at the individual, if they're honorable or not. Number one, they should be able to feed with knowledge and understanding. Number two is you should be able to follow their faith. I think that's what it says in Thessalonians. Can somebody find that? Thessalonians, who faith follow or something like that. I think it's in Thessalonians somewhere. So they have to feed you with knowledge and understanding, and then their lifestyle should be an example to you on whether they're honorable or not. You know, if somebody has a questionable lifestyle, or it's been proven, you know, allegations or whatever, it's been proven, then those people they're not honorable. They're not honorable. But for us, it don't matter. Because you have some people that love the individual, it don't matter what they do. They can, like, you can have, because it's proven. There was he's dead and gone now, Eddie Long, but he was a little boy booty buster. He busted a lot of little boys' booties, and they knew it. They knew it. They still honored him and gave money and everything, which is not uncommon, because you have a lot of men who get caught into shady lifestyles and do things like that, and you still honor them. So did anybody find that in Thessalonians?
Hebrews 13:7.
Okay, obey them that have the rule over you, and submit yourself. Okay, yeah, let's look at that one. Hebrews 13:7. Yeah, let's look at that one. Hebrews 13:7. Thank you, Sister Wall. Remember them that have the rule over you and who have spoken unto you the word of Elohim. So they have to feed you with knowledge, because he says, I'm going to give you rahas that's going to feed you with knowledge and understanding. So who have spoken unto you the word of Elohim. How are they feeding? How are they feeding? And it goes, whose faith follow, got to follow that faith, considering the end of their conversation. This is the scripture I was looking for. Let's look up this word conversation. Let's see what that is in the Greek. It says, considering the end of their conversation. That's G391. Somebody knows how to pronounce that? Anastrophe, anastrophe, and anastrophe, anastrophe, and anastrophe. And that means what? Their behavior. You know, you got to take in consideration their behavior. You know, it says that they should be, part of their behavior is apt to teach. He gives some qualifications. They have to be approachable. You know, you should be able to approach. They shouldn't be somebody that will bite your head off, somebody that's mean, somebody that has no mercy. You know, you got to consider their behavior. Shaul gives us qualifications of the man that is over you. So when you look